Hi, thanks for joining me. I'm Kat Delaney, and this is your Daily Tarot. The first card that we have for today is the Death card. Now, the Death card is a card that's ruled by Scorpio energy. We do have the Sun sitting in Scorpio right now, so I'm going to touch on the astrological influences that are showing up in this reading today towards the end of the reading, just for those of you who are more interested in the cards. So, right off the bat, we do have the Death card, and this isn't speaking to a physical death by any means. It's actually speaking to the death of some kind of process or some experience. And it means that we're moving towards something new, and in order to move towards something new, we have to let something else pass away. So if we consider when Scorpio happens, like what time of year, it typically happens after we've already reaped the harvest. So we have the Grim Reaper in this card walking through a scenario where there's things that have happened and they're not mourning the loss of those things that have already occurred. They're more looking towards what they can create out of the situation that is showing up after that which has already passed. So you have this energy of the phoenix rising from the ashes, which is the third creature or symbol of the Scorpio sign, and that is basically like a shedding of one's skin. We have a snake shedding our skin, like we've outgrown the experience that we've been in, and we have to let go of it to move towards something else that we are being called to creating in our life. So we're passing over a bridge, so to speak, and we have to release, let go, and let there be a death, whether it be some aspect of our own personality or self, or something that we've devoted a lot of time and energy to in the past, and letting it pass away so that we can actually have a rebirth or a birth of something new. The second card that we have for today is the Seven of Wands. The Seven of Wands is all about boundaries and having boundaries and standing up for oneself. The figure in this card is wearing two different shoes, two different boots, which is telling of having our attention in two different places or having our feet placed in two different worlds. So this sense of, for instance, wanting to belong in a situation or be part of a situation and still needing to have boundaries in regard to what you will allow or not allow. And this is done from a learning scenario. So for instance, you may have a new opportunity that is asking you to make a lot of sacrifices to move towards that opportunity, and there may be some sacrifices that you're willing to make and some sacrifices that you're not willing to make. You know, for instance, years ago I remember looking for a place to live, and I had to, write a very specific list of what I had boundaries around, what I absolutely needed to have in my living situation, and what I was okay, or I didn't really make a list of what I wasn't okay with. I just made a list of what I absolutely needed to have. And by that list, it gave me a boundary so that I wasn't willing to budge on things. And for instance, at the time, I had a little puppy dog, and I was looking for a place to live, and of course I needed to find a place that I could have my dog live with me. And I was looking at this apartment, and the landlord actually made the comment, do you really need to keep your dog? Maybe you could find someone else to watch him if you want to live here. And, to me, I was like, that's an absolutely ridiculous and absurd thing to say. Boundary, right? And so we are going to see where we have boundaries today, where we maybe need to have boundaries around self-care, or where we put our time and our energy so that we actually do carve out time to do things that are important to us. So that's the second card of the day. The third card that we have for today is the Tower card. And this is another major arcana, which means that it's speaking to a major life lesson and thing that some situation or circumstance that we are faced with today that we can't just walk away from or put off till tomorrow. It's something that is like showing up right in our face. So we have to deal with it. It's a life lesson. And it's the Tower card. And as you can see, there's this building in this card that is apparently struck by lightning. This card is ruled by Mars. And you have these figures that are basically like trying to escape this fiery building. And it's a pretty overwhelming card. And the message behind this card is that there is going to be some unexpected change, some unavoidable change that happens and that shows up today, that's going to show you where the truth ultimately is. The tower in this card is referencing the Tower of Babel, or the story that we've learned about, some of us have learned about a long time ago, and that it speaks to people building this tower as a means to access and interact with God, and that they did it through the means of language and lettering and how to speak. And they thought that would actually get them there. But then one day, lightning came around and it set the tower afire. And it is the message that you don't build something to be able to communicate with God, right? Like, you can communicate with God without a building. And, that may seem kind of blasphemous to say, but it's true. The temple is within you. And just, as a side note, I think all religions are very similar and all have a very basic foundation to them, which allows people to have some guidance in their life. And so I see them all as being connected, as a very interwoven tapestry for experience, and I don't have any bias towards one or another. Just as a side note, so when I say the word God, I mean it as a term that encompasses all and everything, which is the definition of that term. It's not meant to be affiliated with one specific religious vein whatsoever. So by that means, how do we use language? How do we use things, or what have we built up in our life in hopes and in the expectation that it is going to get us to a very specific place or some specific attainment or goal. And that's shifting today. And there's a lot of realization around a lack of control. And while that can be really shaky and scary for people, because we do a lot every day in attempts to build stability in our lives, a lot of the time we don't really have control, right? Like the people who are in California that had fires sweep through areas, they didn't have very much control over what happened. Same with the people in Colorado who experience fires, or people who are experiencing loss from hurricanes, or people who have experienced loss from the economic situation that's happening now with, all the closures and things. Like, there's a certain amount of things that we've done in life to build a tower of stability, and lightning can come in and crash it all down. And what we have when that happens is ultimately where our richness comes from and where our sense of value comes from, and knowing that we can overcome and participate in anything and with anything that shows up. But, when we walk away, we have a lot less opportunity. So there are some really intense cards today that are speaking to the transformation that's going on right now with pretty much everyone, as well as boundaries that we need to have around self-care and what we want to have in our life. And ultimately, coming to terms and accepting that there is a certain amount of things that are out of our control. And when things shift, how we show up to that is ultimately what directs our sails in our ship when we feel like we're out to sea. Now that's our 3-card reading. Now I just want to touch real quick on what is going on astrologically that these cards are mentioning, because I think it's interesting to look at that based on what has shown up. Now this first card is ruled by Scorpio, and there are 12 different zodiac signs, and the sun is currently in Scorpio right now at 17 degrees. So the sun is sitting in a place of shining light on areas in our life that are undergoing a lot of change and transformation. Now, for me, I have a lot of Scorpio planets, but they're all sitting in my third house, which is a house of communication. And so I'm experiencing a lot of change and transformation around communication and how I interact with people and how much time I have to interact with people. That's transforming for me a lot right now. And wherever Scorpio is sitting in your chart currently, or in your natal chart rather, that's the area in your life that is likely undergoing a lot of transformation at this time. It's also sitting close to being in opposition with Uranus, which is a planet of unexpected, unavoidable changes to outworn conditions that have prevented us from moving toward progress. And so we are literally shedding skin at things that we've outgrown and going through a major doorway, a major gateway where we're stepping into new areas of our life. Now, the second card is a minor arcana card, and it is the Seven of Wands, so it doesn't have any association specifically with any zodiac or sign or any planet. But the third card that we got today, the Tower card, does have an association with the planet Mars. And right now, we have Aries sitting in Mars, and Aries has been retrograde in Mars for over a month now. And to just break that down a little bit, Aries is our sense of self, like our original sense of self, even as a kid, like how we actually came out into the world and who we are in the world and what motivates us in the world and what motivates us in interacting in the world. And so that's Aries, right? That's the sign of Aries. And Mars is sitting in Aries, and Mars is this energy of like this fiery, pushing energy. And these two, the planet and the sign, like the planet of Mars and the sign of Aries, have a natural relationship because Mars governs that energy of Aries, and that's where Aries gets its fiery energy from. But Mars has been in retrograde in Aries, so it's kind of had this like fiery energy, like kept in a cage and like held back. So things that we've wanted to accomplish, things that we've wanted to do out in the world, and things that have motivated us, we've felt some restraint because of Aries, because of Mars sitting in retrograde in Aries, and also because of some squares that have been going on with the planets of Pluto, Jupiter, and Saturn that have been in Capricorn all year. So there's been this square relationship because Aries and Capricorn have a natural square relationship. So any planets that are in those two signs are going to be in square relationship or a 90-degree angle or more difficult angle. And that's been going on for everyone, right? Because that's been going on in our star system. But what's interesting is that Mars is moving out of retrograde in about 5 days. And so there's starting to be like a little bit of a rumble, like in the cage, if you say, like the person who knows they're about to get out in 5 days. And what do you want to do? And what's going to shift? And what kind of energy that's been kind of suppressed for several months is going to open up and move and finally have space to be expressed. And it's kind of like an energy of like a capped volcano, like, I don't want that to blow. I'm just going to like put some stuff on top of it. And we're about to have a shift in that like things are going to move regardless of what we don't want to move, and things that we've been wanting to move, that there's been a lot of, kind of energetic of like something holding it back or something keeping it from being expressed. That's about to like shift in a major energy. And we have those 3 planets in Capricorn. 2 of them are about to shift out of Capricorn and into Aquarius. And two of them are also in conjunction right now. So there's a lot going on astrologically that I think these 3 cards today speak to. And just so you can have an idea of what's going on in your chart, you can take a look at where Scorpio sits in your natal chart and where Aries sits in your natal chart, so that you can have an idea of what areas of your life are being most affected right now by what's going on in the stars in our sky. If you have any questions specifically and would like me to look at it with you and to do a little bit of a reading, please feel free to reach out and we will schedule some time. Other than that, I hope you are enjoying a beautiful day. Here in Colorado, it's starting to snow, and so I'm cozying up. I'm about to make some soup and keep myself warm. I send you a good wish, and I will see you soon. Take care.